Ladies and gentlemen, for how long will Kenya Kwanza survive on political propaganda? Something interesting happened today in Chicago, Embu County. Cecily Mbarire, who is the Embu governor, was attending event alongside Ndindi Nyoro, the Kiharu member of parliament. And Cecily Mbarire asked Ndindi Nyoro to ensure that some roads that had been promised by William Ruto, that budget is set aside. And he was actually, and I don't know why she was actually sending Nyoro to William Ruto, because Ndindi Nyoro is the head of the budget committee in the National Assembly. And she was sending an appeal to Ndindi Nyoro to ensure that in the next budget, the Embu roads are catered for.
Mheshimiwa Ndindi Nyoro, mimi nataka kutuma kama my young brother. We have a lot of confidence in you as the chair of the budget committee. Na unafanyia Mheshimiwa William Ruto kazi. Wewe njamba si akunda mai. Noele wako na kwela na kiembu. Wewe njamba si akunda ndoe mai. Tafadhali mwagi kuthondeka budget. Barabara sieto itano cia Embu vaitika ntwe. Hakikisha hizo barabara ziko na pesa. Na wewe mwenyewe tukiziambiriria no gauka na munene wa bururi kwira andu ni twareta barabara ile twamwirire, kwa sababu President William Ruto alitu promise hizo barabara kana teguo au kasi akawanga ndaririe twadie na kekeria ngandaririe twadie na keshiaranga ndaririe. So I want to urge, tafadhali hakikisha hiyo promise ya president imetufikia.
I want to believe the governor was speaking on behalf of the residents of Embu. The governor is also the chairperson of UDA party. So she's speaking, she's not someone that do not have access to the president. She has access to William Ruto. But she decided to use that opportunity to send a message, because simply she was saying that they're a bit uncomfortable by the fact that the roads were promised, but budget was not set aside. Then after the governor, there were some two other speakers there. Even the member of parliament was there. Then Ndindi Nyoro picked the microphone. And when he took over to respond, because of course the residents were expecting him to respond, he decided to use political propaganda to respond to what Ndindi Nyoro was saying, to what Cecily Mbarire requested. And using the usual propaganda of things have not been good.
Vile Mungu alitujalia tukapata kiti. Tukaenda na rais wetu pale state pale ilikuwa Karen kwanza hata kabla ahame. Na tukaita mikutano na kubuka mkutano moja. Tulienda hapo tukatoka kama 3 AM in the morning. Na tukaita wataalamu wote wetu wa kiuchumi na watu wetu wa treasury. Tulikuwa tunajaribu kuona Kenya iko wapi kwa kifedha na kiuchumi. Na kutoka hapo ndio tuliona ile shimo iko. Kwa sababu vile tuliingia ilikuwa pesa imetumika nje ya budget, ilikuwa bilioni 300. 300 billion had already been spent without being budgeted for. Tukaangalia maneno ya madeni, tukaona ilikuwa imezidi kuliko vile tulikuwa tunatarajia. Tukaangalia uchumi vile ilikuwa. And I want to make it very categorical nikiwa hapa Chicago. Kama sio uongozi bora wa rais wetu, kwenye Kenya ilikuwa ingeendelea na hiyo mwenendo, Kenya ingekuwa uchumi imesabaratika. Katika hiyo time Kenya ilikuwa pamoja na country kama Zambia, tulikuwa pamoja na nchi kama Sri Lanka, tulikuwa pamoja na nchi kama Ghana, lakini hizo nchi zilifika pahali zikalemewa hata kulipa madeni, zikalemewa kujikimu, na ikaenda ni kama zikaporomoka kiuchumi. Kwa hivyo vile nataka kuwaambia Wakenya wote, na haswa tukiwa hapa Chicago, najua matarajio ni mengi, lakini ni vizuri tunaangalia tunatoka wapi, na ni jukumu yetu kama viongozi kueleza Wakenya tulikuwa wapi, tuko wapi na tunaenda wapi. Mimi najua in the last 1 year we have done a lot of heavy lifting of the economy, trying to put our economy in order, trying to pay our debts even beyond the redemption time, and trying to stabilize our inflation. Hiyo maneno yote ya kiuchumi tumeweza kustabilize. Na ile kazi ingine ambayo tuliona ni vizuri tuchukulie kwa maanani sana sana, sisi kama viongozi we confuse development and economic growth. It is not all the time that development inakuwa economic growth. Tukaona ni vizuri tukijenga barabara na maji ambazo ni development, pia tuangalie uchumi ya Wakenya, mfuko. Na ndio maana ukiangalia bajeti yetu ile tumetengeneza, hata kama tumeweka pesa ya miundo msingi kama barabara na maji, tumewekeza pesa sana kwa zile vitu hauoni, ni zile vitu unazifeel kwa mfuko.
Yes, indeed it's true that things have not been good maybe. And if that is the reason why the roads have not been built, we need to agree that it is not true that 300 billion was spent outside the budget. It is not true. And I don't know how Kenya Kwanza wants to convince us that because there was no money, they could not do what they promised, while they have borrowed more than even what Uhuru Kenyatta borrowed. For the last 1 year, they continued with the borrowing, and they have borrowed more. They've even gone back to the parliament to amend the debt ceiling, and reports have also emerged that some of the money that were actually borrowed cannot even be accounted for the last 1 year. On the other end, the head of public service, Felix Kosgei, is on record saying that government needs to limit on domestic and foreign travel because it's gobbling the candidate expenditure. And to cap it all, David Ndindi is also on record saying that government has been unnecessarily wasteful. So I know very well Ndindi Nyoro did not have a response as to why they had not set aside the funds for those roads, but he decided to use the propaganda. I don't know how sustainable is the use of propaganda. I don't know. It is very successful at the campaign trail because also people are at election mode and most politicians are engaging in messaging, and propaganda is used to hide the truth. All of us know the truth, that immediately KK got into office, they activated wealth gathering mode, and everyone is gathering how much I can gather so that in the next election I can have financial muscles. That's what's happening behind the scene. And so, people are making a kill with it. But when you form government, you can lie and use this propaganda campaigns. But when you form government, you owe the Kenyan people transparency. You actually know that you owe the Kenyan people transparency. By constitution, you are under obligation to be transparent and to communicate with great to create the awareness. And so, the reality will catch up. I know the problem is, is that what people want to hear? And this is why I'm saying that the strategy of using lies to control public perception is ill-advised, and it's very disastrous for a government to depend on lies. Number one, they're never consistent. The propaganda cannot be consistent. I can tell you, there are politicians that cannot run good propaganda. What you're going to tell people in Mount Kenya when they request you for roads is different from what you will tell people in Nyanza. In Nyanza, you will tell them they never voted well. And so that's why they need to get plenty shares. In Mount Kenya, they voted well, so they have all the shares, but you have to give them another propaganda. So it's never something that you can say it's one message. It's used where there is political convenience. But this is the danger. The political class is killing euphoric voting. And people are slowly losing interest in participating in electoral process. The last general election, we witnessed lowest voter turnout in the history of our elections compared to the register. We had lowest voter turnout. And it's believed that more than a third of the Kenyan voters never went to the ballot. It's because we went to the ballot when the country was in a serious problem. But if we continue lying, the Kenyan people will not trust the politician. There will be mistrust, and the gap is widening. Without voting, that mistrust, without that euphoric voting, the tide can change. Number two, propaganda seems to suppress any messaging on track record. Now, how would Kenya Kwanza brag that we have stabilized the economy, tumepanga mambo kwa mzuri, while Kenyans are suffering? After some 3 years, when you want to tell people what you have done, will you still tell people, will you still be able to say so many things and how you've done good, while on the other end you believe that things have not been easy? And lastly, the fact that Kenya Kwanza is depending more on propaganda can only show that maybe there is lack of clarity where the country is heading. And so, the only business we have and all our resources, we are putting in controlling the country's emotions. But about if it reaches the breaking point. There is one thing I can say, by the way. I saw, and let me just add this on this. I saw Gladys Sholei saying that on matters of fuel prices, we are at the mercies of God. Because initially it was Ukraine, Russia, now there is the Israel-Palestine. And Israel-Palestine has been added into that list. And so, they're saying we are helpless. We will have to be at God's mercies. Pray so that the war ends. Those two wars end. Fights can come down so that the prices we will actually harmonize the prices. Look at that. If Uhuru Kenyatta would complain and say, we are at the mercies of COVID, so let's wait, COVID comes down so that we can pick up. When Uhuru realized COVID was here, we needed to do something, he introduced the subsidies. But Kenya Kwanza here, you'll be told we are at the mercies of the gods. Ndindi Nyoro. I don't think it's sustainable. It's a political tool, but not for government. It works well for politics, but not for governance. It's actually a toxic thing in governance. Thank you.